What's up, you guys? This is Felicia, your ballin' and bipolar success coach here. I am so excited to talk to you guys today. I've got one heck of a story for you. Remember, you can follow me on really any socials. I'm on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. On Facebook, you can join my group if you would like to. It's Ballin' and Bipolar, our support space. I've got a really cool Instagram page, PHYLECIA underscore Ballin' and Bipolar 01, if you want clear and concise content there. My podcast, though, is where we really sort of do deep dives as much as we can. So if you are on Facebook, I also do lives every Monday. I did not do a live this past Monday because my voice was gone. And so I'm going to pick that back up. And that usually happens between 5 p.m. and 6 p.m. Eastern. You can also go grab my book. It's on Amazon, Be Happy or Get the F Out. It's great, even if you're not bipolar. It's really about trauma and climbing back up to find really who we want to be in our lives. So I hope you guys are doing well out there. Today, what we're going to talk about is me really following my own steps. Okay. I want to start off and tell you guys a story. And this is what happened to me about a week and a half ago. And what I did to get out of this and the meaning behind that. Okay. So if you have listened to any of my content thus far, you will know, or I hope you know, that I have come up really with a methodology behind really bipolar success, and I've built out a bipolar life cycle. If you grab my book, you can download this PDF. Within that book, there's a free resource there. But the bipolar life cycle is really 9 stages. The 10th stage is pivotal moments and knowing kind of what pivotal moments changed our life. But the first stage is flailing. And flailing could mean anything. You know, that could mean an anxiety attack, a manic episode, hypomania, something happens in your life and you're like, what do I do? You know, that's flailing. And then the immediate number 2 is the aftermath, where we are angry. We're blaming others. We are pity me. Why did this happen to me? I'm angry. I'm guilty. I'm pitying myself. I'm sad. I'm blaming everything. That's the aftermath. And then that could ultimately mean depression for a lot of people. Now, stage 3 is really what to do to feel okay. So feeling okay could be getting out of that flailing and that immediate aftermath and things like that. And then stage 4 is like learning real tools on how to breathe again, how to live your life again, right? So the first immediate stage to go back to is, how do I feel okay in this specific moment? What are my tools to do right now to feel better? So let me go back. Let me tell you what happened. So if you guys don't know this already, I am working on my coaching program, and it's really ready to go. It's going to be more of a group coaching program. But I can do one-on-one as well. Now, for me, I had a client who, and he might listen to this episode, but I think it's going to be meaningful for him if he does, because he'll know how much I cared about really helping him. And he ended up not moving forward. He wants more of a group setting, which is totally fine. You know, everything happens as it should happen. So, but let me kind of rewind. I booked a call with a potential client. Now, this would have been my first client. And I made it known, like, he knew that my group coaching program wasn't launching yet and all this kind of stuff. But like, I have all this built out so that this is what we would do, etc. I thought that if he moved forward, I would be elated. I would be on top of the world. Oh my gosh, I have my first client. Da 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 da. We had worked so hard, me and my team, to get everything ready if he did move forward, you know, because when somebody moves forward and pays you money, you want to make damn sure you have things in place. You know, he was going to get automated emails and access to X, Y, and Z and book his first call. And like, all that takes work for a team to set in place. So before this call even happened, we were working, and I have a 9 to 5 in sales, so that depletes me anyway. And then after work, we were working on the business. Now, that is fine. Nobody said it was going to be easy. That's what you have to do when you're building a business on the side. I was all game for it. Well, I have the call, and he says on the call, this sounds like something that he wants to do. And he ultimately didn't move forward, and he hadn't paid because we were having technical difficulties and whatever, and that's fine. But immediately after, when we got off that call, I thought that I had my first client, And the opposite happened. Ultimately, I thought before this, if he said he wanted to move forward, I would be on top of the world. Okay. Immediately, I felt anxiety, worry, doubt, fear, concern. I was so overwhelmed. It was like when I got off the call, I was exhausted and just absolutely anxiety ridden because I was like, oh my God, what if I can't help him? What if I can't help him? What if he comes on board and this is all fluff? What if he's heard all this before? I mean, it was awful. And I felt so bad. And so that day, I just was in meltdown mode, and I was like texting my business people, and I was like, "Is this normal? Is it normal to be freaked out about your first client? Blah blah blah." And then my people, I have specific business people that I reach out to, and they were like, "This is normal." My friend Allie, who owns her own business, she said, "Listen, you care about helping him, which is great. Of course you can help him because you know that what you did to get out of depression and all this kind of stuff worked for you. That's why you're doing this." And then I talked to one of the ladies who knows exactly what I do and who I help. And I have already had so many affirming, conversations with people that have read my book and then have looked at my content and my course and all this kind of stuff. And they're like, "This is amazing. This has helped me so much," and blah, blah, blah. But when you are working with a client one on one and it is the pressure is on because now listen, he knows that I'm not a therapist. I'm not a doctor. Like, this is not medical advice. And I'm not promising happiness either. I'm promising the tools and what is missing in his life to know the why and the how to get there and have fulfillment and be happy. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not promising that. It's more about life and mindset coaching with a niche in bipolar. Okay. So, but the pressure I felt was just, it was wild. And it was okay that night. I went to bed. I was able to relax. I get up the next morning, go to boxing. I talked to my friend who's a psychiatrist who treats bipolar patients. And she was like, "No," she was like, "What you're doing is amazing. I have been looking for someone to refer my bipolar patients to because medication is not the cure all." And ultimately, she's the one prescribing the medication, but bipolar people need so much more than that. And she was like, "No, what you're doing is amazing. Like, you can do it. You're just scared because it's your first." And I was like, "Okay, okay." And so then after I get home from boxing, you guys, I had a full blown anxiety attack. I had just voice texted my friend and I was like, "I don't know. Am I not ready?" Blah, blah, blah. And freaking out when in reality, I'm totally ready. I know I can help. But so I'm sitting here in my room, and mind you, I had a call for my job, like a sales call happening in about 45 minutes at this point in time. And I was having a full blown anxiety attack. I started crying. I started hyperventilating, and I was like, "Oh my God," and so I was like, "Okay, what would I do? What would I tell my client to do in this moment?" In that moment, I needed to feel it. I needed to get it out, but I needed to be able to move the freak on. So what I did was I just let myself cry for a second. I let myself feel it. And then I was like, "But I can't be in this state for longer than 10 minutes. I laid on the floor, my back all the way flat to a hard surface, and I worked on breathing exercises. I breathed in for 4 seconds, held it for four, exhaled for four. And I kept doing that until I had just calmed down. And I stayed silent and I focused on breathing and I stopped. My mind was at ease and calm. I got up, I said a prayer, I said my gratitude, and then I went on and started getting ready and had an awesome day. I am telling you, there is something about breathing, silence, meditation that brings your brain back to calm and brings yourself back to a level of like, "Okay, I'm okay." And that's what I kept telling myself. I said, "I am okay. I am okay." Like, nobody's dying, you know? And that's what I did. And that's exactly what I would have told somebody. And the point that I'm trying to make here is I practice what I preach. This is not something, the things that I teach and I talk about on this podcast are not fluff. I don't do this for fluff and just to talk and hear myself talk. It's because I do it specifically and I know that it works. And I'm trying to help other people because I know other people struggle, right? And I wanted to share that with you guys today because I think it's so important to bring yourself back to a place of like, of humble, because I needed to eat some humble pie. I had been for a long time, I hadn't had an anxiety attack in a long time. I hadn't had any kind of, depression or questioning or anything like that for a long time. I was like, I'm ready to go. Like, I'm ready to build this business. I'm ready to help people. And then anxiety set in. You know what I mean? And that is just a human component. It happens. And when it happens, again, how many times have you heard me say it is not if, it is when? And I know that it hasn't happened for a long time, but I always am prepared for what to do if and when it does happen. Because if you struggle with mental health, and here's the thing, you don't have to have like a mental illness to have an anxiety attack. My mom has no disorder, and she had an anxiety attack at work the other day because she got in a car accident and she was fine. It was totally like a little bump, but she was overwhelmed and was stressed out and was moving too fast, like physically moving too fast that morning, and just her blood pressure went up and she had an anxiety attack. And that's exactly what I told her to do. I was like, you need to focus on calm and breathing and say that I am okay, lay on a flat surface. Like, that works. And I was reading a book the other day where the same thing, she did the same thing for an anxiety attack and it worked. And you guys, I'm telling you, there's something to be said. And if you do that every day, if you focus on your breathing and mantras and meditation every day, you'll know what to do if something like that does hit because you're prepared. Remember, we don't have a routine for the good days, we have a routine for the bad days. And I'll tell you this about that. My dad says that all the time. So there was my nephew, okay? God love him, but he has some issues when it comes to when he gets angry or upset. He doesn't know how to calm himself down. Like, he doesn't have that coping mechanism. And he does jujitsu, and his jujitsu teacher is actually a kids counselor too. So we were talking about that because now he works with her on just on jujitsu and kind of counseling at the same time, and it's really cool. But I was telling her, I was like, this is what happens. He gets really over, exerted, and then he'll get upset, and then he starts kind of crying, and he can't calm himself down, and da da da. And she said, here's the thing you have to think about: if he doesn't have the coping skill to come down from that when he's in that state, you have to work on it even when he's okay. So in the morning and at night, even when Malachi is totally balanced and having a good day, we need to work on the breathing exercises, what calms him down, the meditation, the silence, the breathing, all of that on a daily basis so that it becomes a habit, so that when he does get upset, he knows exactly what to do. She said when he's in the red zone and he's freaking out, there's no way you can be like, oh, breathe, you're going to be okay. And it doesn't make sense. She's like, he doesn't know how to do that even when he's on his best day. So how, if he's in the red zone, does he know how to do that when he's in that state? And I'm like, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense. I talk about that all the time to my bipolar community. We have to know the tools and solutions on the best day so that when the worst day hits, we know what to do and when and how and immediately. Because if you don't have the tool when you're in the red zone or when you're flailing or in the aftermath or the depression state, it's going to be really hard for you to find that and get that balance back or get that center back, because we haven't been working on it either way, you guys. And there was another thing that happened, and I kind of relate this to my nephew just as a kind of a metaphor or an analogy for you because it makes sense. He goes to football, and football practice has been canceled for the last like week because it's been so hot or whatever. And so he has not been in the habit of going to football practice. And I know that kid loves football. He has told me when he gets his uniform on and those pads on, he's like, I want to be like Patrick Mahomes. He loves it, but he hasn't been in the habit of going to practice and killing it. And the other component to that is last year, Malachi was one of the biggest kids on his team. So he was really, really good. And this year he moved up a level. So he is not the biggest guy on the team. So he's got some competition. So he's intimidated a little bit because he was ready. There were kids that were as big as him last year, But this year, kids are bigger than him. And so he's going a little bit of intimidation factor. And he's like, I don't want to do football. I don't like football. I hate football, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, first of all, you're not quitting mid-season, number one. Number two, I know that that's not true because when he gets good at it, he loves it. When I was a swimmer in high school, and I'm telling you this for a reason, don't worry. But when I started swimming in high school, I started when I was in 8th grade on a United States swim team, and it was rigorous. Everybody was better than me. I would finish last every single time, didn't even know how to swim the butterfly the right way. It was embarrassing, and I hated it. But I stuck with it because I knew that this, if anything, this was it for me. And I got good, and I freaking loved it. I got good at swimming. Within, months, I was swimming with some of the top people, and I loved it. And there is a component of like, don't write something off. Don't write your mental illness and success off because you don't have it yet. You're just not good at it yet. We're just not good at the tools yet, you guys. If I'm sitting here today, happy, healthy, rocking on, so can you. Absolutely. Never think that I am any more special than you are. I am not way more talented. I'm not way more, nothing like that. It has taken me a long time and I still flail. I still go back to those basics. And the point that I brought up, kind of the sports analogy in Malachi, was yesterday he had like a freak out moment. I don't want to go to practice and da da da. And I was like, well, he's going to practice. This kid gets dressed and is ready to rock and roll. He was like, he knows he looks good in his uniform, like he's ready to rock and roll. He loves his coaches. His mother texted his coaches beforehand and was like, we need to pump Malachi up, blah, blah, blah. Well, he gets home that night and it was like a switch turned on because he went to practice, he worked his ass off, and he came home and his little light was turned on. And now he didn't tell me everything he did at practice. I ended up not going because I was freaking depleted and lazy yesterday and I didn't want to go to practice. But I was like, how was practice? Talk to me. And he was like, it was good. Da, da, da. And his energy was back. His confidence was back because he knew, and he didn't tell me this, but I know because I've been there. He knew that he went to practice and worked hard and his little light was on. And I'm telling you, you guys, it is the same thing with anything in our life. When we get good at something, we feel better about every part of our life. And I know that I can help people because I know that I do it for myself. It would be different if my own methodologies didn't work and I didn't follow my own rules, but I did the other day and I was back and had a great day. And I know that you guys can do it too. It is sometimes, this is what I told Malachi. I said, you have to know when, and it comes back to the Tom Brady quote that I said on another podcast, and I'll mention it here, but you have to know when, if you're fighting your body or fighting your mind. When we're bipolar, it's most of the time we're fighting our mind because our mind is telling us, you're not good enough or you're depressed and you don't deserve to do this. We have to fight our mind all the time. And if you do that, we can continue to progress and come on top. If you feel that you are living in a constant state of depression, but what we have to ask ourselves is, when was I at my best? Finding purpose in our lives turns our light back on. Finding something that we truly enjoy, or remember those questions, who can I go help? Because mentally, when you go help somebody else through something, it turns our light back on. If we're living an unfulfilled life or a life without purpose, but you know that there is something that you really enjoy and it gives you that purpose, it's finding pride in yourself again. Because I think some people go through maybe trials in their life and then they have this kind of constant state of depression, which is, of course, depression is real. And this mindset of like, I'm never going to be happy. We have to tell ourselves there is a path to happiness. There is a path. I just have to find the pride in myself. I have to find the purpose in myself. And I have to find what it is to where I can share my talent with the world and I can go help other people. And once we find what we're good at and what we love and what our passion is, we go in that direction and that light turns back on. So that's what I wanted to talk to you guys about today. Fight your mind every single day. And remember, if you're not balling yet, you can be, you will be. You keep trudging forward.